Justice League, the Omega Axe Special, Issue 1, Joshua Williamson writing with Yasmin Putri on the art. So, this was not bad.
No?
Honestly, I honestly, the thing that maybe goes against, or the biggest hindrance to this book this week is that it came out the same week as Absolute Evil, which is even better. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is picking up right where those two things just ended. So the little arc in Superman and the Justice League United stuff.
League.
Yeah. So that stuff's just kind of wrapped up, and it picks up with Superman and Booster Gold arriving from the future, calling in all the members. And we get a lot of Time Trapper talking to Booster about why everything's hopeless and why we have to do this or this. And Wally gets involved because when Time Trapper freezes time, Wally's like, "Ha, I'm the Flash. That doesn't work on me. I move too quick. Dexterous."
He noticed something was off. Even that he freeze time, it doesn't fully freeze for Wally.
Yep.
So I still hate that costume that he's wearing.
Oh yeah, it's garbage. Yeah,
the black it does not work. But yes, I did like that wrinkle of Wally coming along too, because it's not just Booster that's there with Time Trapper.
Yeah, so
that was nice.
The framing device around this though is set in the past. It's set in Krypton with like teenage Lara and Ursa, who were friends.
Yep.
And they were going exploring in some of the caves and stuff where some of the old ships from when Krypton did travel between planets and work with other worlds. And Ursa's like, "Oh, we shouldn't be down here. This is all contraband. We would be arrested for this." And Lara's like, "Shut up. Be adventurous, Ursa. Be adventurous." And that kind of...
So here's...
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, the one thing that got me, right, is every other depiction I've seen of Lara, she has dark hair. And here she's blonde. So it definitely it made me... got my hackles up a little bit. Not that it matters, but I'm wondering, if that was an error, if that is status quo going forward now, if it's, but something, it made it immediately feel off,
I'll be honest,
yeah.
If you'd asked me what hair color does Lara usually have whenever she's shown, I wouldn't have said redhead. I knew it wasn't redhead. But if you told me she was always blonde, I would have believed you. I do not remember.
This is something fell off, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've seen it once or twice, and she has dark hair, and that was the only time she's had dark hair, and every other time it's been blonde. But it definitely got my hackles up, like something was up, which really plays out for what they go through. But yeah, at first I thought, I was like, "Is this Lara?" And it took me a second to register, because automatically she looks like Kara, right? Like there's definitely some of those vibes with the blonde hair and her, the way that she's hovering there, Well,
so, not literally hovering, because we are talking about super characters, just to be clear.
Right. No, I the way that she's drawn, though, she's standing above, like this big chasm, right? So.
Yeah, I'll just say, though, I don't think the hair color is a hint of something. Maybe they're just going for the...
I don't think it's a hint.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I don't... Like, if anything, all they're maybe doing is saying, "Hey, she was young, she changed her hair a lot," or something, because that's not uncommon for people to do. But like, I don't think it's important, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, they go exploring in all these ruins, and they end up finding like a secret like cavern. They get attacked by these dog-looking things that are very Doomsday-esque, because they've got the craggies, the bone spikes, and all that. And this is tying into this idea that Doomsday was built on or created on Krypton, engineered on Krypton, whatever you want to call it. And basically looking for like what is Doomsday actually supposed to be, and this kind of intercuts with Time Trapper in present day, who is of course Doomsday, talking about what his purpose is and what he was built to be, calls himself the ultimate weapon, all that stuff, but realizing that he's a weapon that's supposed to be armed by another. And when we get to the end of the issue and Lara and Ursa have their close calls and they read some of the scriptures and they agree to never talk about what they've seen, they point out, you translate, I think it's Ursa translates it first, and she's like, "No, you translated that incorrectly. It doesn't say ultimate weapon or whatever. it says, you know, Supreme Champion or whatever the phrase was, which I think ties into, of course, what the KO stuff's going to be next, because that's all about, you know, crowning a champion.
Yeah, it says the writing says King Omega, so that's not ominous at all.
Oh yeah, that's earlier though. I'm talking about when they translate the thing at the end. Yeah, I mean as soon as they get down there,
shoot, let me get to it.
They start seeing Omega symbols on stuff, and it's like clear that this is all like basically what they're getting at in this issue, from what I'm reading, is that Doomsday was built to fight Darkseid, or built to be the thing that can take Darkseid down, because someone knew Darkseid existed on Krypton.
Right. And that's the thing too, that we got to remember what Williamson had set up with Time Trapper in those issues where he showed up and wanted Superman essentially to kill him, right? Because then he would become like, he would ascend to the next plane of existence, right? And I feel like that's exactly what Darkseid had done, you know? So I definitely feel like it's something that, you know, built in to be this ultimate weapon. That's ultimately what needs to be done. So I do like that there's a bit of a payoff there.
Yeah, which, you know, I mean, they basically recap early on. Time Trapper says when Darkseid like died, his energy, you know, spread out and, you know, became this like thing that just exists. You know, Darkseid is literally now. He just is. And it's basically created an entire universe so that he could, because they talk about the Darkseid Legion a little bit somewhere in here, and they talk about how, you know, they built an entire universe. Darkseid's energy created an entire universe so that this Legion could fester, and now he's using the army that created and his Legion to go across to other dimensions, other timelines, other, you know, and wipe them all out. And eventually they're going to get back to present day, which obviously that's what he's been saying in Superman for the last few issues. But
they kind of
summarize it all here.
He's been working backwards. Yeah, he's been working backwards in time and space with the Darkseid Legion. And that page where it brings up what happened to Darkseid, right? It has Darkseid, you know, I don't know if he's imploding or exploding or whatever, but there's all this red energy coming from him, and that creates like all these cracks almost in like reality, and we can see stuff that he's infected. That's been going on, and, you know, essentially since All In. Yeah. So I do like that, and they even say, you know, that who's talking here? It's the Time Trapper. He says, since then I've watched as his presence has grown, spread, and I saw what the heroes were too blind to see, that all hope was gone, Darkseid had won, right? And that's another very ominous kind of thing, because it makes everything seem like, well, everything's been done. Now we just have to wait to play out, you know? But of course, Time Trapper does have a plan, and it jumps forward, you know, with Booster and Wally.
Well, yeah, but his plan's not with them, though. Like he's basically saying we have to completely abandon the hope of just winning in any way, whereas Booster's saying, no, there's always a chance. If Superman and the League are here and they're willing to fight, like, there's always a chance. And he's like, no, there is no chance. We have to go outside the box of what usually wins one of these events. Like, we have to go do other things. Now, whether or not he ends up being right on that, I suspect there's going to be some truth to it, and we'll get some sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, the stuff with Lara and Ursa, I think, is interesting. I think trying to tie this more into, like, the origin of Doomsday and his purpose, you know, because obviously, like, I don't know if it was, because the whole idea that he was built in Krypton, that wasn't introduced in the original Death of Superman, was it? That was something they added later.
I think that was added later by Jurgens. Right, because Jurgens was, so I feel like originally that was just the seeds were sown of Doomsday on Earth. But then when they explained where exactly he came from, why he was on Earth, I think that is where all that came from.
Yeah, because he'd been to other worlds, and that's why he ended up in that suit that he started in at the start of Death of Superman. But no, they're saying that he comes from Krypton. He was created there. And because we see this big chamber with the Omega symbol, there's that weird beating heart that's kind of whispering in their heads, Darkseid is.
Yeah.
That's fun. So, yeah.
That was some cool body horror stuff, because it's just this black heart, not attached to anything. It's just like almost on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go back to that page.
Yeah, honestly, the weakest part of the issue is probably when they're in the future and Darkseid's Legion kind of starts attacking them, because it's just kind of like whatever. Yeah. It's just a whatever fight scene until they sort of run away. Although I did like the page where Wally sort of takes them outside of time, because he can do that with his powers, you know, and chase them back to the present. Because when they're outside of time and you're looking around the page, like outside of their track, if you will, it looks like everything's burning. And he's like, oh, this is just, our minds are trying to like give us something we can comprehend, because what's outside of time is incomprehensible to human beings or mortals or anyone. And there's like, wait, so it's trying to tell us that literally time is burning. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at what's in those images, it's Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis. Those are the things that are getting burned away. Which I really like, because it's like, no, time is being undone here. And then it's just them on this white background with that burning kind of effect going, which it looks really cool. You know, the mix of all the colors and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, the thing it translates at the end is absolute champion. Of course, it's the word absolute.
There we go.
How did I forget that?
Of course.
Yeah, so Time Trapper's like, hey, Superman, we have to work together, because you know, basically that whole like, you know, some like, I'm the ultimate weapon, yes, but someone else needs to wield me, and that kind of sounds like I mean, it's suggesting Superman here, but maybe the tournament is specifically to who will wield Doomsday as a weapon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and depending what is still in continuity, right? A Final Crisis is. Batman already pulled a gun on Darkseid once, right? Like that's what led to the, you know, the Omega sanction to Batman and Batman getting lost in time or whatever, you know, but Morrison had Batman break his one rule to stop the ultimate evil, right? So we know Bruce has got that dog in him. So I can see him telling Superman, hey man, just let me do it. And of course, Superman's like, no, you can't break your one rule. And that type of stuff. So I do like what that suggests, right? Because we have to assume that some of the heavy hitters are going to make it pretty big in this KO. You know, like I'm sure they'll be shocking.
I'm sure there's going to be upsets. I feel they're going to push a couple of B tiers and C tiers to give them surprising outcomes.
Hey, I did my vote. So there was a form going around where you can vote, and of course, you know, mine ended up with Superman, but. One of the hardest decisions I had to make was Superman and Cheetah. It came down to that on my bracket. You know, so I had Cheetah going over early. You know, and then I think another one was Wonder Woman and Zatanna. So, you know, it's another choice that I didn't want to have to make. But yeah, so there's a lot of fun characters pulled in there, enough to pull up the upset. But yeah, it definitely feels, you know, the long-term booking, to borrow a wrestling term, is that Superman should be pretty well involved in this as it goes.
Well, I mean, he's obviously going to be well involved. I don't think that's ever a question. But it almost feels too predictable for him to be the winner. And especially after this issue where they're saying, hey, Doomsday was created on Krypton. It makes sense that a Kryptonian would be the one who ultimately wields him. I feel like there's a lot of room here to surprises and go with Kite Man. That's all I'm saying, right?
Hell yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Kite Man for the Doomsday Wrangler position, or whatever we're calling him. Yeah, it's funny because this whole Doomsday as Time Trapper stuff, when it first started, it was kind of like, oh, okay, this feels like a very Williamson thing. I don't know how you feel about it, and it's still a little bit weird, but I will admit this idea of trying to tie into like the reason why Doomsday was created in the first place was to be something that could rival Darkseid. I do like that element, and this issue I think mostly works. It's obviously a build up for KO and the ongoing universe-wide stuff. Although interestingly, I think it's interesting between this and Absolute Evil. It feels like both universes are building to their own events right now, as opposed to the big event where they collide. And it seems like, oh, we're still saving that for down the line. We're going to get both of them doing their own thing first, even though they're still, you know, they're a little connected, especially more so on this side, because this side knows about Darkseid and this side knows that Darkseid's energy might have led to something. So this side's a bit more aware, possibly. I mean, not that the characters are aware of the Absolute Universe quite yet, but like, you know, just generally the idea of Darkseid's like ongoing, coming back. Darkseid Legion, of course, comes from somewhere, even if they don't know exactly where yet.
Right. Like they're aware that the dark side doing this has done something on Earth Alpha, right? Like there is something there. They're not sure exactly what yet. Versus with the absolute universe, they're just existing, right? Like that is just their reality. And we're still seeing how they're interacting with it.
And it makes sense the way around it is that this side's the side that's more aware of it because they're the side that are knowledgeable about dark side, and it makes sense to let the absolute universe breathe and just be itself for a while before we start, intermingling them. And I'm sure there'll be little teases like the Mirror Master stuff of like, oh, the two Mirror Masters having a chat because they're both in between the mirror dimensions or whatever. So. Yeah, I think this was mostly pretty good. I mean, it probably helps that this is a not line wide, but this is like the main big DC event right now, and it's not just Williamson. In fact, Williamson's not the one even doing KO. It's Snyder. So how much of this issue? I doubt this was just Williamson on his own going away to write. I mean, yeah, he wrote the words, I'm sure, but I'm sure like everything that was here to set up KO was something that him, Snyder, and probably like Mark Waid and a couple other people sat down and worked out together, and then Williamson just went and wrote the script for it, is what I'm guessing.
Which I've always felt that's been his strength, is that he can take ideas, fuse them together in that way, and come out with something that's ultimately satisfying. So if this is one of those things where he's like getting some guidance from Snyder and Waid, then I'm not surprised that we're enjoying it more than his earlier Superman run, where it just felt like he was pulling stuff out. I don't
think I agree with that first part you said about his strength. I think that's exactly what he, because that would mean his writing would always be good. But the last part about him being influenced or being kind of wrangled with the other writers, I think is leading to a better book.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, and then there's also, did you talk about the booster of it all? That because he had spent so much time with the Darkseid's Legion, and he's absorbed that Omega energy, but also the time energy.
Oh yeah, because he that's basically how they get away from the Darkseid Legion. He blasts them with it. Yeah. Right.
And he says, if you want it so bad, you can have it. And he explodes, and it looks like he takes off a good chunk of them. So I also feel like there's a Booster Gold element as well to all of this, because he's this type of person that's outside of time, being that he's from the future, has spent a lot of time there. He's kind of the ultimate outsider there as well. And now he's kind of the bridge between those worlds, almost by accident, because the Darkseid's Legion needed his, that time energy, the Tachyon stuff, to do what they needed to do, So I do like that there's all these little quirks and kinks in here, that makes the book a much more interesting read.
Yeah, because Booster wants to use himself as bait so that the League can basically just fight the Darkseid Legion, and Time Trapper says that will work. And then we end up at the end with, like, no, I need to be the ultimate champion, or the absolute champion, blah, blah, blah. They need to work together. So, I mean, it's a good, solid enough cliffhanger. It's a nice sort of lead in to whatever KO is going to be. Although it still doesn't really quite sell why there's a tournament, per se. I mean, Absolute Champion suggests the tournament, I guess, but, like, not, like, in-depth or anything. It's just kind of the idea of a winner, the idea of someone who's going to wield this power. It's just a case of, like, I mean, I don't know, we'll see with issue 1 of KO, which is coming very soon now.
Yeah, I mean, I do love a tournament style for storytelling, but it does feel like this is something that cannot just be taken, it's got to be earned, right? Superman just can't decry himself, I'm the ultimate champion. Right.
Well, yeah, but like, why a tournament? Like, who decides there's going to be a tournament exactly? Because I don't feel like here. I mean, maybe Time Trapper is the one that sets it up, but I don't feel like that's set up here where he's like, there shall be a tournament to decide.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't feel like the Justice League would be like, yeah, we'll have a tournament, and yeah, Damian can fight like like Guy Gardner or Red Hood.
Yeah. He opens. Yeah, his opening bout is against Red Hood, which, if he wins that and Batman wins his first, that could lead to a Batman Damian.
I wasn't trying to say who he was actually going to fight. I was just trying to bring up an absurd example of putting the child against, I don't know, like Power Girl. Like,
yeah.
I mean, although he's at the age where she might just distract him to win. He'll be entranced by the big window.
Okay. You're the absolute champion. But yeah, but yeah, and also we get all these kind of Kirby crackly kind of things with the Omega energy when Booster, you know, lets it off, which I do like. I think that's been pretty consistent when it comes to this. So, but yeah, why the tournament? That's still my ultimate question here is, you know, yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun. This could have felt like a throwaway, but the fact that they treated it like it was this, you know, lead in, almost like the preamble to everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's not the exact same, but it's kind of like your Countdown to Infinite Crisis one shot. It's basically that for KO, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I do wonder where it'll be collected, because you could put it at the start of the KO collection, but I feel like they'll probably put it at the end of the little Superman arc or something like that, because it maybe fits there a little bit better. Plus, it's also Williamson, but I don't know. Anyway, and then your art we've not really mentioned yet. Obviously, Putri is a solid artist. Definitely, you know, I don't necessarily love kind of I don't know, there's like a sheen to the faces sometimes with Putri.
Yeah.
That I'm not in love with, but generally speaking, I'd say it's relatively solid house style looking. You know, it flows well. Like, I mean, if nothing else, you know, the layouts are never lacking. It always feels like it has a good flow to it. Knows when to have the big panels, when to have the little ones, or when to you know, abandon the straight boxes for something that's a bit more angular to try and give a sense of momentum. So I can't really complain. It's definitely, it's pleasant art without blowing me away, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and then I do like the breakup, like when Putri's drawing Time Trapper Doomsday, and you have all the spikes coming off of the face, right? I think the angles really work out to the advantage, you know, because that's just their style. Versus some of the pages, like with all the superheroes, you know, like the last page where Booster's like, everyone needs to hear this, you know, not the last page, but right before the last page. You know, I just feel like when there's all the angles, the art looks a little bit better.
Yeah, I did like that all the pages in the past in the caves are all like much darker. I mean, that makes sense because they're in caves, but it felt like none of the modern pages were ever not bright. Like, it was all, they had like a sort of clear contrast of like, no, this was a secret in a cave. Everything's really kind of like under the shadows and murky. And then all the stuff in present day. Because it's not like it's happy in present day. They're being chased by Darkseid's Legion and there's like death imminent around every corner. But it's presented in a very kind of like, it's all out in the open now, as opposed to just hidden in a cave, like the backstory. So, we'll I guess we'll rate the book then, Matt. What are you giving the Omega Axe special?
I'm gonna give this a straight 8.
I think that's fair. I think I'm in that vicinity. I think for a setup of an event thing, I generally enjoyed this more than I didn't. I think I definitely enjoyed it more than those last 3 issues of Superman. It's I'll probably agree with the 8. I mean, it's just getting there. It's just getting there and no more, I would say.